So ICC friends, I am super excited to have someone here with me today who absolutely needs no introduction, but I would be remiss if I didn't try to give one. She is an incredible singer, award-winning creator. I have the one and only Miss Nicci Gilbert here with me today. Now, Nicci, I see what you got going on. I love a girl who makes a statement through her earrings.
Oh, my earrings. Yeah, I thought they would be appropriate for today.
Yes, I love a girl who makes her statement through her earrings. My first question for you today is just, how are you doing?
Oh, thank you for asking that. Thank you so much for asking that. I am in a period of like a lot of personal growth and development, because life has been lifing in a way that I never could have imagined in a million years. Mm-hmm. And I understood how important, or I'm starting to understand how important it is to take care of myself, to go through a period of self-care. So I have days where I'm just like, yes, let's go. And I have days where I'm like, wait, hold up. What? Is this really life right now? Yes. So ebb and flow, but grateful that I'm still here, grateful that I'm here to continue to build my legacy, but also to continue to fight for my family and generational wealth and wellness. I just thank God that, having lost so many people recently with Malcolm Jamal Warner, Jesus, rest in peace. It's like, how do you find the space to complain if God gives you another day?
Absolutely. I feel like this is a perfect place to start because, Nicci, you've been showing out on the girls. We've been getting bathing suits. We've been getting thigh meat. You have been showing out. And you look so absolutely beautiful. As someone, I will be 50 at the end of this year. So you are representing for the girls beautifully.
Thank you.
Talk to me. What are you doing, like, health wise? Like, do you have a trainer? I know you cooks because
I cooks. I be cook. Let her cook, baby. Like Glorilla say, let her cook. I thank God I have a husband who is just like, okay, if it ain't right here and physically and mentally and spiritually, it ain't right, and working out, even though I'm just getting into the practice of better eating habits, I'm on myself about that because I feel like, because I work out every day, I could just eat what I want to eat. No, ma'am. 55 double nickels up in here. Most of the losing weight part of it is your diet. So I've been really getting into the habit of practicing better eating habits. But, I just went through such a period in my life where I was so like down on myself. Like, of course, outwardly, I would project this very like confident person. But the early part of my career, baby, it was tough. We wasn't out here in Lizzo land in the early 90s. It was a whole different thing. So it took me so long. And the theme song, from R&B Divas, which shout out to my girl, Belle Johnson, who's an amazing co-writer and producer. That record really was a turning point for me because it was just like, I'm loving myself and everything about me. And I know plenty of people who look great on the outside and inside. It's all kind of stuff going on. So
absolutely.
I just grew into that, self-love.
Well, let's talk about that because you have been in this industry for such a long time, like longevity in the Black community and Black music. We always talk about how we throw away our legends, right? Mm. You have the Rolling Stones and the Eagles, they propping them up on stage, like literally, rest his soul. Ozzy Osbourne, his last concert, he sat in a chair because he was unable to stand up. But guess what? That arena was packed. Yeah. Just talk to me about, like, as someone who has been a legend in the music industry, from working with Michael Jackson to Grammy Awards, ASCAP Awards, having your songs sampled, having your legacy continue to live on. Talk to me just about how, from your vantage point, just watching the landscape of music change over the years, because you were basically one of the people who broke the barriers. You talked about, like, during your time in the industry, you could, weight, height, complexion, hair, all of those things were just ridiculously important, ridiculously, right? Just talk to me about how you feel about the music industry today, with just the way it looks and those who are in it and growing and all those good things.
Whew, I have to pace myself because I've been in this business for 31 years, so I have a lot to say.
Girl, say it.
So,
You see what I did?
A few parts of that question is definitely changed. Not just me. Like you hear, it's so funny. I was looking at some older clips of when we were pitching R&B divas. Selena had the issue. Faye had the issue. Angie had the issue. Even Kiki had it was just a different industry in the 90s and early 2000s. Like what the women are able to embrace about themselves today, just, it was different. And when you think about it, when you think about Motown and how they went through artist development and quality control, right? Real, actual quality control.
Yes.
And you just think about our community as a whole, we just had a different pride in our appearance, right? We just had there were some things. Now, I'm not saying that everybody's got to, go to church with a skirt below your knees and, opaque pantyhose and stuff like that all the time with no red lips. Hello. But today, I think what we've done is we have taken the opportunity to be free and express ourselves and take out the respectability politics and taking it to another level where now it is almost a prerequisite that you show way too much to be successful, right? And I hate to come off as the auntie, but I'm 55, so that is who I is.
Right? And I'm tapping on the door, so let's have auntie circle right now.
Auntie circle, and this is and what I hope that young women get from this conversation is that if it's going to come from a place that is filled with love and wanting the best from you, it's going to come from the aunties. It's not going to come from the record executives. It's not going to come from the men that are like, pop that. Yep. It's going to come from those of us who, there's that saying, if I was your age and knew what I know now, it's crazy. There's something to be said about the knowledge and the wisdom and really wanting us to be better and to do better. And to the women who feel like they have to overexpose themselves to be successful, I say this: at some point, you are going to look back on your life and your career and question some of those choices, right? When you start thinking about having children, and here I am, a grandmother in a bathing suit, but I try to be fairly tasteful, and I'm not. Get my point. My point is not to show your full and beautiful, voluptuous self. It is just, when it's hypersexualized, when you feel like you have to do it to be successful, when you turn on an award show and instead of seeing us in beautiful gowns and hair and makeup and glam and grace, everybody's got on a two-piece thong bikini on stage performing. Exactly. It is distracting the audience from your gift. And the reason most people get into this is for the applause based on your actual talent and your gift and not the size of your assets.
Yes. And you know what else? It also comes twofold as well, because then you find yourself, and I see it more on the hip hop side of things, where the argument or the debate becomes, well, can she really rap, or is it the TNA, the clapping cheeks, and then you put yourself in this position sometimes where it's like, you're almost battling yourself. Your body is battling your talent. So, like you said, we embrace everyone and we want everyone to be their full, authentic self.
Yes.
But the other day, Nicci, I was like, I reached the point, because now I'm just like, and and I remember when I was young, we used to turn up and stuff, but our turn up was different. And I know the world evolves, people evolves, and people evolve and standards evolve or just disappear. I don't know, but and
there is something a lot more nefarious involved in that.
Absolutely.
Calling a spade, it is a stereotype and a narrative that people who care nothing about the future of our community have the power to perpetuate and stick in the algorithm. So the other side of it is that I get it. When you talk about reality TV, when you talk about, people dressing crazy, we can sit up high and say, well, shame. But when that is the only real source of viable income in our community, and if you don't do that, then you don't get it, then it's kind of like, I was looking at a clip from Chloe Bailey, who I've known Chloe and Hallie since they were little bitty girls. And she said something that just broke my heart. She said when she saw Sinners, it broke her down, because what it symbolized for her was you can't just make good music without the devil coming in trying to take it from you. And then you look outside and you're inside this place fighting for your life, struggling to survive. And for what? Because everything outside is vampires and goblins and ghouls. And it's like, what am I in this space with 3 or 4 people fighting for our lives when the whole world appears to be turning into vampires? And that is really symbolic. And it broke my heart, because I know those girls, I know their parents, I know how hard they worked, I know how hard they pushed to be something other than that. And there are times when even I've looked, and this is another auntie moment, and I'm like, but don't go there, because you're really talented. We don't need to see that, ladies, because you're so talented. But it's just hard to fight against a machine that is constantly telling you that in order to be successful, that you have to be this type. Yeah. And then saying, whenever your aunties tell you, I come from a family where if I would come in from California, either too heavy or too thin, my aunts would be like, come here, let me look at you. You look, and you just had to like, and I wasn't like, who she thinks she, that, right. If Patti LaBelle or Aretha Franklin or something, Mary J. Blige tells a story. Yes. Of when Shaka Khan pulled her to the side and gave her some notes.
Yeah, don't play with Sweet Thing now.
Gave her notes. And Mary took those notes and changed her entire career with them. She didn't, who you think you, and maybe at the time there was a little bit of like, who just, yeah. But imagine me trying to tell Lizzo, boo, you look great. But she'd be like, girl, listen, I got 500 million followers. You got 3. Who you talking to? The value we put on these numbers is crazy. So anyway. I told y'all, don't get me on it, because I'm
because you get ready to we got the detour and go down a road, because it's just funny. Just really quickly, just speaking to that, I heard someone say the other day that I actually said it the other day as well, but not as eloquently. They were just basically like, you can put in all this work, you can have tenure, longevity, you can have the knowledge and all of that, and they will minimize you to the amount of followers you have.
Oh yeah.
Oh girl, shut up. You only got 3,000. Okay. Anyway, I'm gonna back up off of it and sit my cup down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And that is a kind of power and control that our community really needs to check, the weight that they put on it. Because I mean, come on, look what just happened with Diddy in this trial. Look what happens. I think Nicki Minaj was recently talking about her follower count. If they can control you and control our community based on the number of followers that somebody has, the devil can have as many followers as the devil wants.
Absolutely. And also it does something to the mind as well, because people place their value on the amount of followers. And I'm kind of, not to make this about me, but I literally had to have a meeting with myself, because I had gotten to the point, as a content creator, as someone in the media space, I always put my best foot forward. I always try to move and step with integrity. Sometimes I'll do a post and I'll try to make it funny or something, like just to kind of get people laughing, never malicious or anything like that. I try to inject my humor, and I'll put something out and it gets like dust. And then I'll see like the next person do the same exact thing. And then it's like, so then I'm like, are people not connected? It makes you question yourself sometimes. And I was like, yo, I'm about to be 50 years old. Maybe I need to log out, because if I'm sitting there questioning my gifts and talents that God gave me, or the level of work or expertise that I have based off of people acknowledging with a press of a heart in a corner of an app on their phone, then I need to check myself. So I always try to move in a space of transparency. So I was like, I need to reevaluate some things, but this isn't about me. It is about you.
No, but I just want to make a point real quick. Have you seen the Batman movie yet? I mean, Superman movie yet?
Yes. Wasn't it
Did
fantastic?
You see that little farm with all the, what were they, raccoons or rats or something? And I mean, so yes, that is the visual. Like 9 times out of 10, what's happening is again, back to the ability to have bot farms, the ability to hire college kids, the ability to hire people in other countries to just, you understand what I'm saying? Yes. So longevity isn't about the quantity of the work, the numbers. It is about the quality of the work, period. Absolutely. Because there are a lot of people out here that got way more followers than me that you have already forgotten about. There are people who have way more followers than, so what is real speaks to the heart, and what is real also sticks to the ribs. And that's why 31 years later, we're still out here able to entertain audiences where we may not have as many followers, but that doesn't negate the impact of, how we stick to people's ribs,
it doesn't diminish the legacy. Exactly. So let's talk about Brownstone for a little bit, because you had me cracking up. You said, y'all gonna leave me alone about these notes. Listen, I was doing those notes in the back. Leave me alone. I know my ministry now. Just talk to me about just being able to still go out and perform those songs that I still inject in an everyday sentence. Like somebody be like, girl, how you doing today? I'd be like, 5 miles to empty.
I know that's right.
My heart.
See what I'm saying? We sticking to the ribs, baby.
You know what I'm saying? Sticks to the ribs. And it's just fantastic just to see the three of you still up there, just beautiful and sounding amazing, doing these shows and still giving us that music that I'm going to start using that too. I'm going to inject that into my mental library that sticks to the ribs. How is that for you? Just talk to me about that a bit.
I have to say, losing Maxie was the most devastating moment of my life, outside of course, losing my sister. The only difference was we had 18 months to make memories and prepare and to, just face it, and with Maxie, it was just a phone call and she was gone, right. So I never thought I would be, I was in the darkest place ever. I was like, F this music, F this group, F this, blah, blah, blah. It was like, right. Done. And my mom, before she passed, we had kind of been mulling over whether or not we would come back. And Essence reached out. My mom had a few years after Maxie, my mom ended up having a stroke. And, I remember her saying, like, I just want you, before one of the last conversations we had before she became nonverbal, is I just really want you to focus on music. Your dad was a musician. I'm a musician. This is the gift God gave you. I know you're trying to do all this other stuff, but focus on music. And I was like, Mom, if the right opportunity comes along, and then boom, Essence called. And I was like, huh? Wow. Okay, Lord. So
okay.
That is how I ended up meeting Aaron, because my mother was in the hospital for a long period of time.
Okay.
And I didn't have a lot of time to prepare for the show. My mom died June 3rd. Essence was literally 1 month later. Wow. So long and short, Mimi was available, but she was only available to do the songs on the first album. And we're like, oh, how do we cover these other songs? So I reached out to Kina. A lot of people, I'm using this opportunity to say it. A lot of people are like, how come you put the other girl? First of all, I never put anybody out of the group. Maxie left on her own, Mimi left on her own, Kina left on their own. And none of them left because of anything nefarious that I did. They left simply, Maxie wanted to do a different genre of music. She moved to London for 10 years, wanted nothing to do with the group. Mimi wanted to get married, have children, sing jazz. She was over it after the first album. And Kina immediately pursued a solo career. So the beautiful thing about being in Brownstone is everybody has historically been able to sing. So at some point, people want to stop looking at it like Nicci's the lead singer of the group. So y'all did that. Labeling me the lead singer. Y'all did that. Dude. And the other part of it is I would write songs with everybody's part, and the record company would literally be like, I remember I Can't Tell You Why was a really big deal with me and Maxie because I didn't want to sing it. I was like, no, that's Maxie's song. And Tommy Mottola was like, we need you on that second verse, period. So there are two versions of the song, one with Maxie singing the whole thing and one with me singing it. And I was in the studio with my lips poked out because I did not want to sing. I said, this is Maxie's record. But because there was this whole narrative that I was the lead singer of the group, I had to be on the majority of the records. And I didn't know at the time. I could just say no. You know, I mean, well, I did a couple times. I actually did say
but I always wondered about that, you know, the impact of that, because and respectfully, of course, you know, and most times when there is a trio, there is usually one that the fans just, and I don't want to say it's the star quality of it all, because all of you had star quality, but Nicci, you had star quality. I mean, you know, but then you look at Destiny's Child. It was like listen, what is it? David Ruffin and the Temptations.
Hey, here to see.
Okay, ain't nobody coming to see you, Otis.
Right.
Yeah, but you know, and it's not intentional on your part. You know, you just have the gifts that God gave you, and people, they connect with people differently, right? So it's just, I always wondered, like, on the inside behind closed doors, how that really truly impacted a group. You know, I mean,
it was hard. Well, you know what? I think initially it was good, right? Because Maxie really was super low key, except she was like fire and water, rub her the wrong way, and she was South American. You know what I'm saying? So that was that West Indian energy. But it did start to cause issues, because it would be like, so Nicci, what are you? And I'm like, and I would literally be sitting in interviews trying to be quiet, and then we'd be done, and they'd be like, that was the worst interview you guys ever did. What are you doing? And I'm like, well, I was waiting and letting them talk. So Big Mouth Detroit, hey girl, I think was just what maybe resonated. I was just being myself. But yeah, I think that is something that happens, I think, in every group. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, get this idea that the lead singer is like, excuse me, hello. You know what I'm saying? That's not what it is. Sometimes it's the label. Sometimes it's just naturally who you are, that certain people just gravitate. And that was tough for us. But the beautiful thing about where we are today, and the reason I made that comment about the highs, right? Yeah. First of all, let me set the record straight. I still be singing now. Don't get it. It is not that I'm not, but I recorded those songs when I was 23, which means I had a whole different register. I had so many more octaves than I have now. And rather than change the key of the songs, some of them we tweak here and there. We want to make sure that the audience is getting that nostalgic feel, because ain't nothing like them people ready to sing that note with you. And it ain't coming. You know what I'm saying? So thankfully, Aaron and Alexis are sisters. We're working on a docu that's going to explain how Alexis became a part of the group, but it was just nothing but God. Again, nothing nefarious. Nobody got put out. Even going from Tisha to Alexis wasn't, that wasn't it. It was literally Tisha saying publicly, in an interview, I'm tired of being second. I want my name on the marquee. And she was the first time that I actually heard one of my group members articulate like in that way. You know what I'm saying? Maxie said she wanted to do a different kind of music. And that was different. And I actually found out Maxie wasn't in the group when I went to the lawyer's office. They're like, oh, she left. You own the group now. It's all yours. Do whatever you want to do. I'm like, what? And then, so that you'll see the clips from some conversations we had back then in the new docuseries. But with Kina, she kind of just never really said it. And Tisha was like, I'm tired of being second. I want my name to be. And we were like, oh, is this really happening during an interview? And then you'll hear the rest of it. Some other things transpire, but long and short, I just want the record to be clear. Yes. It has never been me acting like Diana. Well, see, that's terrible.
David Ruffin and the Temptations is my favorite.
David Ruffin. I wasn't doing that. You know what I'm saying? It was always what's best for the brand moving forward. And I'm so grateful that we landed where we are, because I feel like it introduces us to a new audience. It preserves the legacy of who we have been for 30 years. And I couldn't be working with greater women and just talented, beautiful. And on the inside, their mama and daddy did a good job.
Well, shout out to mama and daddy. Now, Nicci, you tried to glaze real quick over this docuseries. You have to I saw you try to itchy yaya with the marmalade over that Talk to me about that. Whatever you feel comfortable telling me right now about this, because that sounds so exciting. We getting some Brownstone docuseries.
So the biggest thing for me, I think, at this stage in my career was trying to figure out how to tell a story, because I've been so many things, I've done so many things have been in the press. And I'm like, how do I try as hard as I can to protect Brownstone from any of the Nicci Gilbert stuff. Right. So, you know, if you go to the Brownstone IG page, you ain't seeing nothing about none of the madness is going, it's all music. So I was always fighting that part of it. And I finally landed on, it's a part of the journey and you have to tell the story, because if you don't, then someone else will. And there's so many variations of what happened with the group, what happened with and I was there. I know exactly what happened and I have to tell the story. And when I looked back, each part of it sort of fell into, you know, R&B Divas, as much as it wasn't really about Brownstone, there was a moment on R&B Divas that Brownstone participated in. And shortly after that moment, Maxie passed away. And what that was, so I have to include it. So we are working on a docuseries. Part of the reason why we haven't done the announcement yet is because we have a really big, which I'm sure we'll talk about, a really big Supreme Court situation going on. And I feel like I would be robbing the people of the fullness of the story if I didn't include that. So we are probably going to be releasing it in 2026, because the plan is that, you know, if all goes according to calendar, this thing will be wrapped up by October 7th. So yeah, we'll be able to kind of like wrap the story up in that and sort of where we go from here. But yes, it's going to tell the story from the beginning. And we're actually starting with where we are now. So I'm excited about that. And it's musical and it is, I don't give out too many details, but it's amazing.
You better give all the details you want to give right now.
Look, you'll have everybody. It'll be amazing, but it is definitely, it will be a great watch. It'll be well worth it. And yeah, we're really proud of it. And we're executive producing this thing together. A lot of girl power and a lot of honesty in it. And you're going to see some familiar faces.
Thank you for giving that to us, because I feel like we deserve.
Of course.
We deserve
a
Brownstone story.
Of course.
We deserve. Okay, so let's move into one last thing that I want to talk to you about before we jump into the big elephant in the room. Tory Lanez. Friend, the internet is a place. Yeah. It is a place. Now, I remember I actually wrote about it in December 2022. We got this verdict in this ongoing saga of Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion. Yes. And I remember you taking the social media. Look at you laughing. I remember you taking the social media and you put up a statement, and I think I kind of made a note of it but you just basically said that you cannot and you will not support violence against women. Right. And I think the most important part that you said was the end, where you said, I pray for healing for all involved. And you were removing some of the Say It awards and things that you received, because for those of you who may have been on another planet for the past couple of years, because I'm trying to find one to move to, friend. I don't know about you, but I'm trying to find
one. Listen, hopefully one with an island is some blue water somewhere.
There it is. You know, Tory Lanez sampled Brownstone's classic Say It. And it was a jam. It was a jam. And he garnered all of these awards. And of course, because he sampled your music, you also deserve awards as well. So you were kind of like, you said you were cleansing, you were removing the awards and just kind of taking them out of that particular space. Well, fast forward, some different things have come out, some different things have been said. And in an interview, I think it may have been around May, you issued a public apology to Tory Lanez, just basically saying that you may have rushed to judgment, just with everything that was just out there and all over the place. And the internet, they gave you hell when you removed the signs. They gave you hell when you apologized to the man, because again, there's two different hives. It's the Free Tory and the Keep Tory hive. So it was like on one side, the Free Tory hive was mad. Then on the other side, the Keep Tory side was mad. I already know your personality just from following you and just loving who you are all these years. So I already know you, either way, you don't give a damn. Just to keep it frank.
I just want y'all to talk. That's just talk, but I need y'all to talk about a few other things.
That's right. That's right. But talk to me about what it was, just briefly. We ain't got the deep dive into it because it's not that deep.
Yeah.
But just talk to me about what made you say, or what was it what piece of information, or maybe what came to you, or a thought process that you had that made you say, hey, maybe I did rush to judgment. Maybe I should issue an apology, and a public apology at that.
Yeah. Because I realized that the justice system wasn't what I thought it was. At the time, I was a little naive about all of the facts are presented. The jury said what they said. The judge said what he said. You know what I mean? And I was really in a space of like, and be clear. Let me start by saying this. I still support Meg Thee Stallion. Mm-hmm. I do not have any issues with Meg. And I want her to receive justice no matter what. Mm-hmm. What I said was, if there is any possibility that there was evidence that wasn't presented, if there's any possibility that something was missed in this process, then he deserves the opportunity for a fair trial. And I apologized for assuming that everything that I saw in the press and in the media was accurate, was 100%, because I wasn't aware at the time of how manipulative, I was aware of how manipulative and one-sided that the industry could be, but I just didn't know that within the judicial system, money and power have a lot of influence. And when I had my own experience going through this system, when I realized, oh shit, mm-hmm. You can't present this evidence, and you can't have that expert testimony, and you can't have this, and you can't have that, I was like, oh, well, maybe there is a possibility. And when people started to say, and here, I'm not going to get into the politics of it, but there are people getting behind this that are like, no, this was not fair. Wow. I have to give that some consideration. I know Tory. I had the opportunity outside of the Say It record, which I was not involved in any of that process. It was one of those things where I found out after the fact. And that's a whole nother conversation. I'm not going to go too deep into that because we're actually talking about some stuff with his team as we speak. Okay. But I heard his story. I've been in the space with him. And when I heard about what happened to Meg, I was really shocked because I was like, that wasn't the energy I got from him. Like, I didn't just get that, you know what I'm saying? I didn't get that at all. So that was kind of like, huh? But then I was like, but the court said, but the judge said, but the people said. And then I was like, oh, but sometimes what is said in an even court isn't actually what happened. And people have been exonerated after years with new evidence. So for me to make that big, bold, definitive statement of, I don't want this plaque and it was wrong. And I apologize again, and I stand 10 toes on it. I had limited information and limited knowledge, and I formed an opinion based on something I wasn't there to see or experience. And even when it happened, there were some questionable things. So again, I stand on it, 10 toes. If there is any possibility that Tory Lanez deserves either another trial or to be exonerated, then he deserves that. And I stand by that. But I also stand by protecting Black women. And whatever happened to Meg, something did, and getting to the bottom of that as well. So I support her. I support him. I think with everything going on right now within our community, we need to be looking for fair and amicable solutions to everything. So, yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate you just for clarifying that for me.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it.
Yeah.
Listen, look, that's when I be like, all right, look, let me grab my notebook and let's get to it.
Listen, I got my lip for this. Oh no.
Okay. Nicci, you know I ain't about to play with you today. We gonna get to the things. All right. So Nicci has been in this ongoing legal battle with Lionsgate and Stars in reference to P-Valley. And one of the reasons why, let me just tell you why I wanted to talk to you about this. I remember writing about it. I think it was, when did you announce the lawsuit? I believe it was 2000. I got my notes here. When did you announce the lawsuit?
22. It was announced in 22.
Yes, January. I believe January 17th of 2022 is when you announced the lawsuit. And I was like, what? And I'm a huge fan of P-Valley. And so then when you announced the lawsuit, I was like, hold on. Hold on. What is happening? So I watched the video that you laid out. I read all the documentation that you laid out. I believe it was 47 similarities. Like, I was in, because I was like, hold up, because this is a whole story in itself. And I read it, I reported it, and I'm looking at everything and I'm like, well, maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe because nowadays, like, there's nothing new in Hollywood, right? It's almost like they give us the same show and they just put PD or CI or CIS behind it, but it's the same gosh darn show. And I was like, well, maybe it's a case like that. And, and then, time kept going on, and then you started speaking out more and more, and you became more visible about it and more, just loud about it. And I had to check myself, and I'm gonna tell you why I had to check myself, because I don't know if it was my bias towards liking the show that initially made me be like, maybe she just think it's a similarity. And then as I grow as a person and as I do my internal healing or growth, I sat here and I thought to myself, imagine having something that you created taken from you. I'm going to say allegedly so I don't get myself in trouble. Okay, Nicci, but
yes,
I'm going to imagine having something you created allegedly taken from you and put out into the world, and everybody is just falling all over and just loving all over it. And you literally have, look, this is mine. And people are like, girl, shut up. Girl, go sit down. Girl, this, girl, that, girl, this. And you know in your heart of hearts, and you are fighting, and you are continuing to fight, with doors slammed in your face, with evidence suppressed, with things not being allowed to be presented. I said, as a Black queen, how would that make me feel? And then I looked at you and I'm like, no, I have to talk to her. I have to create space for her.
Thank you.
Whether or not you agree, that is not you, unless you on the jury, we don't care. Okay. Whether or not you agree, that's the least of importance. It is the situation at hand, what we're dealing with. And I wanted to give you a platform to speak on it, to talk about it, for maybe open another mind, because a lot of times we can't see or understand something until we have to walk in that shoe. And when it's squeezing on your bunion or messing with your heel spur, then you're willing to open your mind to the situation. So, Nicci, that is really the number one reason why I wanted to open my platform to you, to let you discuss this. So I have a timeline. Soul Kittens Cabaret was released on DVD 2011. Talk to me about Soul Kittens Cabaret.
Thank you. Soul Kittens Cabaret is a love letter to my hometown, Detroit. It is, first of all, it was written at a time I started writing it in 2003. It was first copyrighted in 2004 with the Writers Guild, and then later in 2006 with the U.S. Federal Copyright Office. It is a story about a venue, cabaret, sexy dancers, led by a member of the LGBTQIA community. He's described as a flamboyant drag queen at a time when using words like drag queen were completely out of pocket, right? We have pronouns and all these ways of explaining what something is now. But it was about gentrification in our community. My mom was a jazz singer, and there were all these hole in the wall, and when I say hole in the wall, I mean affectionately, right?
Yes.
All these really cool, like Kit Kat clubs and spots and whatnot. And I wanted to add the element of sexuality and burlesque and stripping, because it was taking it even to an even deeper level of taboo, right? And judgment, right? So wrote the story, started doing showcases around town, did a few in Detroit, did some in New York, did them in various places. And then finally got to a place where I asked my friends, Faith and Fantasia, listen, I'm gonna put this thing on DVD. I'm gonna make this play, blah, blah, blah. It's my first thing ever, da, 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 da. So we did it. And once that DVD was done, I was really grateful to my friends. Obviously, there were things I was like, there's so much more here, so many more stories, so many more layers. So I started developing it and pitching it as a series, as a television series. But it is a story about, my hometown in Detroit. A lot of these clubs did actually get taken by developers who wanted to develop casinos. If you know anything about Detroit, we have several casinos all over. My mom actually had an abandoned, well, it wasn't abandoned, it was just a building she bought at an auction before the casinos came, that was sitting on some of the land that they ended up using for the parking structures for the casino. So that was directly impacted me. Just because my mom would be like, listen, I'm telling you, it's going to be worth some money. City's coming up. If you've been to downtown Detroit, which I represent every day. Hello.
It's so cold.
You see that it's so cold in the D. Gentrification was real.
Yeah.
And so it was a love letter to my hometown.
Now, if someone wanted to go watch or purchase Soul Kittens Cafe, it's still available?
Soul Kittens Cabaret.
Cabaret.
So that is a whole nother conversation. It was released on DVD. It's been out there, but I pulled it back just because, well, I don't want to get into the reasons why I pulled it back just yet, but I pulled it back. But you can see clips of it here and there, but at least until all this stuff is over with this case. Yeah. Okay.
So you mentioned that after releasing the DVD, having success of, doing Soul Kittens Cabaret around town, you pitched it to Lionsgate because you saw the possibility of more stories being told. Yes. So you pitched it to Lionsgate in 2014. Let's talk about that pitch meeting.
Yeah. So before I pitched it to Lionsgate, I was working with a company, the same company that to this day works with Tyler Perry. So they produce his plays. And one thing that R&B Divas taught me was that I did not have ownership of the show. Even though I created it, even though it came from me, there was no ownership. So this investor who invested in Tyler Perry at the very beginning of his career and still works with him, said, Nicci, if you have ownership and can do a similar deal to the one Tyler did with Lionsgate, I will finance the production. So he helped finance Tyler's plays. Tyler then turned those plays into series and licensed them to Lionsgate, right?
Okay.
So I was working with the same promoter, who, as I said, to this day still works with Mr. Perry. And he said, Nicci, if you go in and you pitch a similar deal, I'll do it. I met with my attorney, who was friends with the CEO that I met with. Okay. I explained to him, I have the funding from the same people who funded Tyler in a similar deal that he did with Lionsgate, who will take my play, Soul Kittens Cabaret, and turn it into, or help me turn it into a dramatic series. I wrote the pilot episode, which is the very first episode of the dramatic pilot called Curtains, which is the spinoff of the play. I wasn't pitching Lionsgate a stage play. I was pitching Lionsgate a dramatic 1-hour series based on the stage play, very much aligned with how Tyler Perry did it with his plays.
Gotcha.
So if people go back and look at a stage play and they're like, this bootleg, little low budget, it was $100,000, right? Yeah. In a stage play. So I sat down with the CEO, not just sat down with the CEO, I was referred to the CEO by a friend of his who was also my attorney at the time. Pitched him the ideas, they were all copyrighted. The only thing that did not have a federal copyright, but a Writers Guild copyright, was the pilot. And that was because typically until you have the series I copyrighted it. It should have been under federal copyright because that is part of the reason certain things were thrown out, because I included that I left that. But real quick point I want to make. The minute you put something pen to pad, it is technically copyrighted, right? So it should have been considered. That's one of the things we're addressing. But we sat there, pitched the whole idea to him. I brought 2 copies of everything because I was supposed to be meeting with the CEO and the head of legal. The head of legal did not make the meeting, but the CEO invited us into his office and we pitched. He was engaged. He even said, "Oh, Tata, I love that name. Tata is French for auntie. So you got Auntie Burlesque to your Uncle Clifford." Left the DVD, left a copy of the play, left a copy of a deck, letting them know I wanted Soul Kids Cabaret venue, Soul Kids Cabaret cast album, Soul Kids Cabaret, and a copy of the dramatic pilot. He said, "I'm going to read this over the weekend. I typically read things with my family. I'll get back with Leroy," and blah, 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 blah. Never heard back. So I assumed, hey, they weren't interested in the pitch. Happens all the time. And then 2020 came along.
All right, let's address this timeline, and then I want to come back to 2020. So in 2015, P-Valley, I'm avoiding saying the vulgar word, P-Valley, the stage play, premiered in Minneapolis in 2015. 5 years later, P-Valley, the TV series, premiered on Stars in 2020. Mrs. Nicci Gilbert, where were you when you saw P-Valley for the first time? And what was your initial reaction?
So can I go to the 2015?
Sure, let's go back.
P-Valley play.
You can go wherever you like to go.
Okay. Sure. So what I know for sure. Okay, let me not say for sure. Well, I do know for sure. What I know Katori posted on her timeline is that she and I were both in Los Angeles in 2013, 2014, pitching ideas, right?
Okay.
I know that Katori tells the story of when she went and met with Stars and Lionsgate, and they basically were like, "Hey, listen, come back and present to the CEO," and her and the CEO were swapping each other's story ideas. I know that during the time she was pitching in 2013 and 2014, she was going around the networks and she was pitching networks ideas. What I don't know is that whether or not she and I were pitching Lionsgate and Stars around the same time. That's what I wanted to find out in trial, right?
Yeah.
But I know that she went and she put her play, the play version of P-Valley up at the Mixed Blood Theater Company in Minneapolis, I want to say. I know that play did not have a casino. I know that Uncle Clifford was not a drag queen or was not, I know that there were certain elements that are in the series that were not in her play, but were absolutely in mine from day one. I know that she only put that play on for one performance. Outside of that, there is no record of P-Valley, the play going anywhere, showing anywhere, playing anywhere, right? So here you had my DVD out, my play copyrighted since 2004. We go to LA around the same time. We're pitching networks and we're in there. And she actually posted something that said, suffering from writer's block, having a such and such and such and such. And then she was like, went to a meeting, got some good information. Writing is rewriting. Don't let anybody tell you anything different. So the reason that's important to me is because her friend, someone she knows, Tanya Sriracha, who did a show with Stars, was also pitching them around that time. And when she went and had the pitch meeting with the same woman that Katori met with initially when she met at Stars, Katori has said this publicly, that woman gave her copies of scripts that Stars and Lionsgate had in their vault. And she said, pick one. And so she picked one. It was called Me Vita something. And she told her to leave and come back, write it, come up with something. She was going as a writer. When Katori's friend came back and who was meeting with the same woman she met with, she said, "Oh, this is great. This is going to be your show now. You're going to be the showrunner for this." Now, mind you, they gave her a short story that was already established by another writer and told her to go and rewrite it. She went and rewrote it, came back, and they gave her the gig as a showrunner. Katori had the same experience except I don't know if they gave her some ideas to write and develop from. She never said that part, but she did say she met with the same lady. The lady told her to go back and then come back and meet with the CEO. Then she came and met with the CEO, and they were swapping each other's story ideas. So if I have materials in a Lionsgate vault, Stars vault somewhere, and you have a writer who comes in that's never done television before, her play, whether or not it had gone up, I don't know. Again, 2015, one time, who knows what that is, but I know that there's only one showing ever of the play. She said herself it only made $1,500. So you have someone who has faith, Fantasia. This play has been going on for a minute, set with the CEO. He loves Tata Burlesque, loves the character. And you got somebody who, did a Martin Luther King play and won a Pulitzer, but never did anything in television and film. The difference between the two of us is I wanted ownership and partnership. You could outsource and hire somebody else to do it. And don't say the company doesn't say, hey, listen, we got these in the vault. What can you do with this? Because it happened with her friend around the same time I was pitching them. So that in and of itself was enough of a question for me to say, was Katori given the idea and expounded on it? We don't know. But I know what happened with your friend.
Nicci, that's wild. I'm trying to wrap my mind around it because I had planned to ask you, how do you think it went down? And
that's how I think it went down.
Yeah.
I think.
Right. We think. Damn. That is wild, Nicci.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, Lionsgate owns the idea that I pitched to them. And I'm assuming Katori Hall is a work for hire.
Because even if, even if the script itself or the pilot itself wasn't handed over, it's the implantation of the idea.
When you say that the CEO and I were swapping each other's story ideas, it became a work session. And then when I announced for the first time publicly, which was before the lawsuit, on social media that these shows were very similar, she then did an interview with ABFF. And at the end of the interview, the ABFF interviewer asked her, if you knew then what, and it was all about P-Valley, and it was all, this is where I learned, and her and the CEO, this is where I learned all the specifics of the meeting, and the lady told her to come back, and she said, if you know then what you knew now, you would have. And she said, chosen my partners more wisely. Then I get an email from somebody who knows them, or a DM, which I never really brought up publicly,
right.
saying, do you think that Lionsgate played you and Katori? Maybe gave her information on and that's what made me do the research and discover that her friend sat down with them and had the same conversation, and they pitched her something and she developed it and they made her the showrunner.
I don't know if you're able to say, but have you and Katori ever had a conversation about this?
We had a deposition that no one will ever hear, because the deposition between her, the CEO, and Nico, we all deposed, are redacted. So the judge in my case said, oh, nothing to see here. And if people were able to see that deposition, people probably would understand why I'm pushing so hard at the Supreme Court for my case. But again, that is what made me realize that Tory Lanez might not be, an isolated incident, because how dare you, if someone says something and swears to something under oath, and it is something that for public opinion as well as legal purposes could actually help benefit people, have people go, aha, right? Why would you redact it? Why would you black it all out like it never happened?
You have been fighting this legal battle now for 3 years.
5 years.
5?
2020 is when it debuted. September.